Hello and welcome to episode 62 of the Your Way podcast. I have got the amazing Max Wilson with me today. Now, you might be familiar with Max because him and Greg Stein grilled me on a podcast earlier this year that was put on this podcast. And today, really, it's payback time. No. So Max is a coach. He used to be a barrister. He's a lovely human. I don't exactly remember how we first got to know each other, but it was definitely via LinkedIn, but I don't remember what the specifics were. You
No,
might.
no,
No,
I'm
but
trying. I'm
anyway,
trying. I'm trying to think. I think I actually did see your website many moons ago because I was looking for lawyer coaches. I think that I came
right.
across you there, and then maybe I added you off the back of that, something
Let me
like
have
that. Can't remember. It's organic. Let's go with organic.
organic. We met organically via a sole contract.
Yeah.
Um anyway, so I've asked Max to come on because what I think is really lovely is showcasing different people's stories and experiences and how they got to where they got to. Um, and one of the things that I'm really passionate about is also being able to showcase men in this space because there are not enough men out there doing, well, let me rephrase. I'll say there's not enough men out there doing personal development work. That's not necessarily true, but in the coaching space, coaches, there are a lot of female coaches out there, and there are a lot of female coaches out there that only offer female spaces.
Mm.
And so, actually, if you're a man looking for support, and that's a challenge enough in and of itself because you're told that you need to be strong and it's weak to need help and you shouldn't be looking at your emotions because feelings are not okay, then it's like, well, where the hell do I go? So,
Yeah.
um, so what's been amazing over the last few episodes is to have a little bit more of a male representation. So you can start to feel into, oh, there are actually some men doing this work, and there are some men doing this work that maybe could help me if you feel drawn in that direction. So, Max, hello and
Yeah.
welcome.
Hi. It's great to be on here. Thanks for inviting me.
My pleasure. Do you want to introduce yourself properly?
Yeah. I am Max Wilson. So I am a men's self-leadership coach. So I help men basically find more balance, joy, purpose in their lives, helping them sort of thrive without sacrificing their well-being in the process. Um, and I think it's really interesting what you were just speaking to there, because there are a lot of men working in the personal development space, but there aren't many men working in the personal development space who uh, have a practice that's inclusive to all men, uh, and have an approach that's sort of not this direct drill sergeant type alpha male men's coach. And I think something maybe we'll come on to in this discussion, but there's not a huge amount of spaces for that in between type man who doesn't want that direct sort of drill sergeant alpha male coach. That was me way
Yeah.
back when. Yeah.
Do you know what's really funny as you're saying that? I'm like, I don't even see those people as coaches. In my mind, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, I suppose they still are coaches. But I
Yeah.
mean, like, as in someone that can hold you, who can hold all of you. Um,
Mm,
and I love that. So, talk to me a little bit about what is self-leadership to you. You said you are a self-leadership coach.
yeah. So self-leadership in a nutshell, we are taught in society how to lead others, right? Through a lot of training
Yeah.
and things like that. But where are we taught actually how to lead ourselves, how to become effective leaders of our own lives? We're not taught it in the education system. We're not really taught it in our careers. We might get some ad hoc training here or there. So we're left to almost stumble and fall in the world until we reach a critical point where we've really got to address this self-leadership stuff. And then
Mm.
we all go on our journeys, right? And that was my experience. Many of the people that I work with have had gone on that journey. And so it's fascinating that as a society, we absolutely need self-leadership, but it's the one thing that we're not taught from a young age.
Yeah.
And when
Yeah.
I'm talking about self-leadership, I talk about it in sort of three levels. So external self-leadership, like how are we operating in our outside world? If we're thinking about routines, habits, relationships, mindset leadership, like mental health, inner critic, quietening that voice down. Like most people I work with, when I start working, they don't even know what the inner critic is. They just live and lived by this loud voice, right?
Yeah.
Emotional regulation, all that. And then core self-leadership, all about like that authentic self. So connecting under all the layers of that societal conditioning back to core true self. And for those that, have those beliefs as well, including myself, like that more spiritual leadership, like higher self-leadership, like connecting to something other than ourselves. So in terms of like accessibility to this content, where do we go to get this information? Like we're blocked, right? And so
Yeah.
as a self-leadership coach, I want to help people on all those levels. Um, and yeah, I work predominantly with men because there's a real need, I feel, in the space with men to help support with that help self-leadership stuff.
Yeah, which a lot of men are craving.
Mm,
And I think and I don't know if you're noticing this, there does seem to be this real increase of people coming to us, but and maybe it's a factor of my age or a factor of the fact that I've been around a while now. But there does seem to be this increase in people starting to look at who am I? What do I need?
mm,
What do I want? Like I've completely lost myself along the way. And yeah, maybe I'm leading a team and I've got a family and I've got kids,
mm.
but I've forgotten myself. And the inner critic, I remember it was probably about 2019. I said something to my coach. It was this throwaway comment, as far as I was concerned, about having to use a to-do list to justify my existence. Tick things off a to-do list to justify my existence was the phrase.
Yeah. Wow.
And she was like, "You've got quite a loud inner critic, haven't you?" And I was like, "No, I don't think so." She was like, "You've literally just said you have to tick things off a to-do list to justify
Yeah.
your existence."
Justify your existence. Wow.
And I was like, "Oh, yeah, maybe I do."
Yeah. Yeah. And just stepping back and realizing for the first time that we're not that loud voice is mind blowing for so many people, including myself when it first happened. Like, wow, I was that voice for so long and it crippled me. So just having that awareness is huge, right? And it's like this big secret that we keep locked away in society.
Yeah.
And we have to find that somewhere through going to like a thinking partner, like a therapist or a coach, or whatever. It's only there that we're like, oh, wow, I can live in another way. There's another way of being.
Yeah, and then also because I know you run groups as well, but then also that amazingness when you open up some of that in a group space, and it's
Mm.
almost like you can see this complete relief throughout the entire group of like, it's not just me.
Yes, yeah. The number one question I get asked, honestly, and I'm sure you have this as well, the number one question people ask me is, am I alone in thinking like this?
Mm.
Am I alone in thinking like this? The first question I asked when I got support, am I alone in thinking like this? And we're
Yeah,
conditioned to feel like we are, right?
yeah, because we're conditioned to hide,
We're
hide
conditioned to
those
hide.
parts that aren't shiny. Are you fine? I'm great. I mean, we're allowed to be busy.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. So that's fascinating. And everyone wants to hear what everyone else brings because they want to compare their stuff. Is it valuable stuff enough to bring to the coaching space? Or is it bad enough? Is it too bad? Is it too much? It's so interesting. Um,
Yeah, yeah. And it's one of the things I have to navigate with my groups. And I've said, and this is one of the things I have to be quite clear on. And it's one thing saying it and another thing them feeling able to do it. But it's like, if you're having a shit day, I want you to
mm,
be able to come here and say you're having a shit day. But similarly, if everyone on the call rocks up and they're all having a shit day and you are
mm,
living your best life in your joy era and you're having an incredible time, I also want you to then still in that space be able to come and celebrate yourself
yeah, yeah,
because that's hard as well.
yeah, that's very true. Yeah. Yeah. We were talking just before we came on, weren't we? Like the group space is almost like a mirror for us as facilitators, but also for people within the group. So for anyone listening who hasn't been in that group environment, it can be really powerful in terms of like the personal growth side of it, because you get to see all different sides of yourself and practice challenging the sort of more shadow parts of you as well.
Yeah, and sometimes actually it's nicer I mean, there's two things. I'll share what it's like for me being in a group space. Because I was reflecting with one of the ladies that's just joined one of my groups on this yesterday, but it sometimes can be more powerful for you because you're not that you're under the spotlight anyway, but when someone else is sharing their thing that you're resonating with, but someone else is being coached or exploring it or mentored or whatever it is,
Mm,
it's almost like you're able to step back. You're seeing their story, and it's not that you're not paying attention to their story, but simultaneously, you're answering the questions for yourself and thinking it through for yourself, but not in
mm,
this environment where it's like, oh, I now need to answer to everyone.
mm,
But it's like, but so it's a different kind of process. And then
yeah.
the thing that I sometimes find in a group is if there's a few, never interestingly, never when I'm facilitating a group, but if I'm a participant in a group, I can actually
Mm,
find it quite hard to focus.
mm,
Like there's lots of different people's energy, there's lots of different people's stuff going on. And I don't know if it's
yeah.
just because I'm not in that place of I am here as space holder, but what I find on group things is it's always beneficial for me whenever I get the recording, if it's recorded, happy days, to then listen again when I'm out in nature, when I'm on a walk, when I'm moving in
Mm,
some way. It could just be when I'm stretching upstairs that
yeah.
allows me then to access some of that in a more in-depth way. And I don't know if that is because I don't think I dissociate on the calls. I don't think my nervous system's in that place now. But
Mm,
it is almost like sometimes it's just like I actually can't focus on all of this
mm,
and also all of these different people's energy. And there isn't like an energy contract there because we've not contracted to work together.
mm,
So
mm,
it is interesting. So you're right, so many different dynamics come up in group spaces, and they're all mirrors for all of us. Like we learn as much as the people in our group spaces, right?
yeah. 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 We're all constantly learning. I think that's the key. It's it's not a pedestaling, or at least amongst good coaches, it shouldn't ever be a pedestaling. It's a facilitation.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. And that realizing, and I'm kind of slightly leaning into, I suppose, a spiritual thing now, but that kind of that thing that we are all the same. We're all one. We're all part of
Mm,
this same thing of consciousness. And actually, you kind of do see that in a group setting. Like we've
mm,
all got these similar versions of life experiences or different things that move through us. You know, in
yeah.
my experience, I'm still like men are welcome in my spaces, but there generally tends to be a couple of them in amongst a
Mm,
group of women.
mm,
Um, but we're very conditioned to be the good girl or the good guy. And that
yeah.
conditioning and that stuff flows through. But then when you see one person break out of it and they can share how they've broken out of it, it almost like gives other people permission to be like, oh, maybe I can say no to that meeting.
Yeah. 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 There's a modeling of vulnerability that happens for sure, which can be really powerful. And I think interesting to see in the group setting and the one-to-one setting, the pain points of individuals and the commonalities and the bigger awakening picture. Like, it's so interesting how taboo that still is. Like, people might like hush it as like, oh, I think I'm feeling this thing that, I don't know, universe might be looking out for me, or I think I'm feeling like I want to connect to my spirituality, or I'm thinking, almost whispering it. Um, and that was me as well. And I think it's really fascinating, especially with men, because already, um, there's the whole not speaking up about emotions. Well, I know a lot of this stuff affects women as well, obviously, but I just speaking from male experience, my lived experience. But um, it's interesting how much of that also translates into the sort of spiritual side, that shutting down of anything
Yeah.
that's not structured and active and um, yeah, it is more esoteric, I guess, is is
Yeah.
fascinating and allowing them
Yeah.
in the space to uncrack that nut. Yeah.
Yeah. And you're right. And that reminded me. So I remember back in, it was before I'd really had my proper awakening or was really open to it. I had a client. It was when I started doing the nervous system stuff though. So I was very much intuitively led in my work. And, I would ask things like, what do you notice here right now? Or I'm feeling called to like for you to check in with your shoulders or a different point.
Mm,
I remember one of them, and interestingly, the two men that I'm thinking of were both partners in law firms. So they're these like big, fancy jobs. And both of them, way before I even identified as a witch, were like, what kind of witchery is this? How did you know this? But I remember one of them saying to me, before I was even ready to say it out loud, I have noticed this really, like, I think he felt it was like a weird shift of really feeling connected to something else, something greater than me.
mm, mm,
Um, and it is interesting how that how that plays out, and how it doesn't feel normal
mm,
or safe. I grew up Catholic,
mm,
but I've been with Nat for 18 years next month,
mm,
and we would joke about people with faith. Or,
mm,
like they're just trying to clasp onto something. And that's very much still his view, by the way. Right.
mm.
And, people that saw things. And I had an aunt that had had someone come in to do an exorcism in her house because she'd moved into this abbey and someone had died there like 100 years before by being pushed down the stairs. And people used to laugh at her, and she had her crystals and she did all her stuff. And now actually my crystals aren't here right now because they've been charging under the full moon,
Ah,
right?
wow.
But now I'm that person, right? But it's so interesting how things shift. But yeah, and also how massively taboo it is
Yeah,
to allow that stuff, which I would say is natural but not normal, to come through.
yeah. Natural, but not normal. Yeah, it's that, isn't it? It's that natural, not normal. Because if it became normal, then chaos would ensue, right? So
Yeah,
we've got to keep the awakening under wraps. We've got to keep it all hushed. Because if people
it's
start questioning all the stuff, the structures that we have as they are all gonna collapse.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Which is why it serves the people that want the structures in place to keep us not awakening by
yeah,
whatever means they may or may not
yeah,
pursue.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Talk to me about what you mean by, I mean, I think I know, but like share with the
Mm.
podcast listeners what you mean by spaces for the in-between type man.
So great question, and I think this is something that's not spoken about much. So I went to a wellbeing festival, and there was, I'm not going to name the men's club because I think they do great work. I don't want this to come across in a way that um, disparages them because the work they do really helps other men. But it was very like black and white, one type of male mold group. So I was told that to join this group, what would happen is I'd be given a football. We would pass the football round and share. And then after, we would go and watch some sport together. And the final comment was just don't bring your missus. So I'm a gay man for a start, but also um, I'm somebody who hasn't really connected with the sport world so much. Like I don't really watch much sport, if I'm honest. Um, so it was alienating on lots of different fronts, but the message underneath was really genuine and had integrity behind it. Like we're here to support men, right? But I just didn't feel like there was a space for me um, there. And I tried to find the space for me, and I couldn't find one. Um, and it's not just about being gay, because I've got straight friends who feel the same. They feel alienated from certain male spaces because they don't fit in. Maybe they don't like the sport, or maybe they um this drill sergeant, rah, like jump in a cold whatever it is, like ice bath and out and scream and shout. There's a place for some of that for sure, and we need to connect to
Mm,
our sort of sacred masculine.
maybe.
But there's also a lot of wounding behind that, I think. Like,
Yeah.
and the gentler side is lost. And I think that's what's missing in like the men's spaces. It's like, how do we connect to sacred feminine as well? Like that nurturing embodiment, allowing, becoming space. I think
Yeah.
a lot of these groups feed the more masculine energy. Um, and that's not necessarily what we all need or want. Um, so yeah, for me, the in between and the inclusivity, yes, it's about spaces for men who aren't straight or whatever. Um, but it's also about the men that just fall outside of that really alpha drill sergeant type, um, you know, way of being that a lot of these groups present. You know, even in the imagery on some of their websites, it's very like black, white, big muscled men screaming, shouting. Like that's really intimidating for me. It's intimidating for some people that I know as
Yeah.
friends. So where's the spaces? Where's the more gentle, nurturing spaces?
Yeah.
Where you can still feel like a man, you can still feel, you know, connect to that masculine energy. It's safe
Yeah.
as well to connect with that soft, those softer energies as well.
Yeah. Now, I don't know the answer to this question, so there's no agenda on this, but I have my opinion, but I'm just interested in yours. Do you think the spaces that you've just described, that are like very alpha male thing, I guess 2 points. How many men do you think are genuinely that?
Mm,
And are those spaces, they might have good intentions, but are those spaces like healthy balanced, or are they kind of perpetuating a more like what I would call a toxic masculinity thing?
mm,
And what does, and so forgetting what's normal, what's natural look like? Because you talked then about the sacred feminine. Like the
yeah,
sacred feminine doesn't mean you're a woman, peeps. It
yes,
means that you've got a balance within you
yeah,
of creativity and action, of rest and doing stuff, of
yeah,
anyway,
yeah,
take
receptivity.
any of all of those questions.
Yeah, well, I think it's a really nuanced answer because I think we have to meet people where they're at. And I think we have
Yeah.
to meet men where they're at. And a lot of
Hmm.
men have been so conditioned that they maybe don't think as an entry point that this space is for me because it's so unrecognizable to what they're used
Yeah.
to. So
Yeah.
for a lot of men, I think these spaces are necessary as an entry point, not as the be all and end all, but as an entry point into the personal development
Yeah.
world, the sharing world. And, you know, we're talking about people who have said they've been through spaces and it's prevented them from suicide, for example, right?
Mm.
So there is there is a huge amount of value in them, but, and it is a but, I think you talked about the perpetuation of toxic masculinity. I think some of them can also perpetuate that model of toxic masculinity because they churn the men through, but then where are they going after, or where's the depth, where's the access to that receptivity in that journey or after? And I think that's what's missing. And I don't feel across the board generally that it's with the same negative energy that you would find, for example, in a really toxic masculinity type setup of I don't know, a sports group. I don't feel it's like that, but I feel like it's almost a inadvertent perpetuation rather than an intentional. Like this
Yeah.
is the model we're sticking to, and we're not going to let go of it. I think it's this is all we know. This is how we can connect to men. So this is what we're doing, and it's kind of like, yeah, that works, kind of. But also we need more. I guess it's kind of like it's like a both and. It's like we kind of need,
Yeah.
people coming in this at all different levels. I was never felt comfortable coming in at that level, but I know one or two people in my life that probably would feel more comfortable coming in at that level and then end
Yeah.
up somewhere else. So there is a space for these groups, but it's like both and we need to be doing more within those groups and outside of those groups, I think.
Yeah. And I think that's such a good point, right? I often use like a ruler with clients. Like, say a client's done a certain amount of work, but they're like, but I can't help people with this because I've not done enough work. I always get the ruler out and I'm like, look, if you've gone from 0 to 15, you can help anyone from 0 to 14,
Mm,
right? But you
mm,
probably aren't going to appeal to people that are at 25.
yeah,
And I think you're right, it's the same thing. So like my spaces now are not going to appeal to to beginners. For a long
yeah,
time, my spaces would have. You're in a job, you don't like it, you're burnt out, you feel a mess. Where do you go? Right, Louise can help me. But now
mm,
I'm talking about working with the moon and working with nature and working with seasons. I'm talking
yeah,
about being a witch. I'm sharing like tarot cards and oracle cards on social media. I'm there with my sage and my sound bowl. Like
yeah,
a lot of people are out. Right,
yeah,
at that point. But you're right, but it doesn't mean that there still has to be a space for the people
yes,
who I used to serve. I'm just not that space anymore. So I
yeah,
think you're right, and I think it's such a really good point. Like does need to be an entry point for people,
yeah,
But similarly, if you are a man who is not interested in sport, having a missus or whatever, then
Yeah.
that's not your entry point. I'm also curious about, do you drink alcohol?
So, I used to have a very bad relationship with it as a lawyer
Yeah,
and um, took a year off completely. And
yeah,
now I don't really like might do on a wedding or something like that,
yeah,
like infrequently, I would say. Yeah.
yeah. So I'm similar to you with that,
Mm.
right? I'm not completely teetotal. I will absolutely do the champagne toast at a wedding.
Yeah.
Most of the time I don't, but mostly because I just feel so diabolically shit the next day. I stay really
Yeah.
badly.
It really affects me now, like on another level. Yeah.
But I think that is another thing. So I noticed, particularly living in a village where a lot of people are a little bit older than me, there's still that full-on drinking culture here.
Yes. Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah.
and I think that's a big thing for men as well. You know, like my husband will say to me, he's like, you don't get it. Like the way men bond is they go down the pub and they get drunk together.
Yeah.
But
Mm.
I'm like, but not everyone wants that to be drunk
No,
either.
and this is the thing, yeah. And it's alienating when you don't. And that's something I feel personally I've been going through as well, is like it is the glue that binds that social together in the society that we live in right at the moment, at least in the West. So
Yeah.
when you come away from that, you're talk about witches, you're almost like it's that negative, like derogatory, like you're an outsider, an alien because of that, right?
Yeah.
And in the men's space, I think all of these things keep us trapped in this man box. So um, uh, are you straight? Do you drink? Do you like sport? If you tick those 2 boxes, you're quite firmly in it. Oh, and you don't talk about mental health or emotion stuff. Like that's a strong foundation in the man box, right? Obviously not a strong foundation for life, but that's a strong foundation for the man box. Now, what happens is most men at some point breach one of those rules because they reach a crisis in their life and or something else happens, or you know, maybe they realize that they don't want to just be going down the pub drinking every night. Um, so they step outside the box, and then there's no blueprint. So we get the blueprint for the man box, like what we do when we're kids. And a denigration of the female is important as well. So degradation of the feminine. So when you're called a sissy when you cry or what's that. So that perpetuated throughout, right? Um, so if you breach one of those rules, you're out. But then when you're out, I found myself out of that in my 20s, and I was like, where do I go now? Like, where's the blueprint of where do I even belong? It's a really weird experience. I'm sure there's
Yeah.
inevitably correlation, like with your experience as a woman, but like it's really odd that there's just nothing apart from that man box. Yeah, which
Yeah.
is why it's so important that we try and touch on this because now more than ever, as people are waking up, people want to step outside of the model that's been for so long. Um,
Yeah. And to find community.
yeah, yeah,
So my husband does drink, doesn't really watch sport. He plays pool, which is
mm,
interesting because I would say he is much more in his healthy feminine than his healthy masculine
mm,
in many ways. So he finds the pool environment incredibly, incredibly uncomfortable
mm.
because that is kind of stereotypical. We've been to jail and we're going to kill you if you look at us wrong, people.
Yes, yeah, yeah,
And I'm not even really being that stereotypical with that. That's just a lot of who he plays pool with. Um,
mm,
but he's done lots of things. So many times, let's say 5 times when I've been on retreats, he's had like a great big men's party here.
mm.
But his aim is always that he wants to have like deep, proper conversations with the men. So
Oh,
he
bless him.
will drink and he'll do the things and he does all these different bits. And then he gets really quite upset because he's like, people don't invite me back and we can't do
Mm,
these other things. And I can, and he's like, am I just too weird? Did they not get it? And I think it's probably just a little bit uncomfortable for them to be with
mm,
someone who's willing to have a proper conversation that isn't just
mm.
like things are a bit shit, but we'll not talk about it.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And there are men's groups out there. There's a lot of men's groups out there that where you can have these deeper conversations, right?
Yeah,
Um, but to create that space in your current network, you're almost bringing in an external framework, an external way of being, an external conditioning, and trying to impose that with every good intention, but trying to change a system, right? And that's hard to do when we've all got
Yeah.
that conditioning. People don't know what's good for them. Myself included, all of us at some point, we don't know what's good for us. And
Yeah.
I, I think it's, the same adage, you can take horse water, you can't make it drink. If people will come to this stuff when they're ready.
100%.
Unfortunately, and it is unfortunate, but people will have to get to a certain point, really, don't they, before they're ready to, why, if you're comfortably in that space of having the drinks and chatting about the sport and all the things, why would you change that if
You wouldn't.
if you, yeah, or not talking about mental health, yeah, you wouldn't unless something
Yeah.
happens.
No, 100%. I mean, I remember when I first started working in the burnout space, and I was like, I'm going to help people before they get to where I got to.
Hmm.
I mean, it's a
Yeah,
lovely thing to think of in theory, but in practice, people are gonna, if you're working in the burnout space, people are coming to you when they're on their knees.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I think that there is, on a very macro level, work that can be done, like changing messaging around like masking, stoicism. I'm
Yeah.
talking about legal sector, but also other sectors. Like there is a lot of work that could be done to change that, to help people not
Mm.
get to that state. But on the micro level, yeah, it's much harder, right? Because they're in the system, and
Yeah.
uh, we're not taught that this is an important thing to think about when we're kids.
Yeah. So you've shared kind of a little bit about your background so far,
Yeah,
um, without necessarily needing to go back to birth. I'm
yeah.
curious about. I'm joking. I'm
Can't
just.
remember
I'm.
that.
I'm curious about like what were the key things for you. What made you go from barrister to coach? What made you decide to become a barrister? What were the key bits in your journey that led you to that place of self-leadership, of feeling that call to
Mm.
support other people?
I feel like I have always had a call to support other people in some way, shape, or form. And I think
Mhm.
we know that stupid thing we have to do. We have to decide what we want to do at uni, what we're doing for the rest of our lives at 18. That I was going to do medicine or law,
Right.
and I wanted to serve. Um, and I did actually do drama, so that was going to be on the cards as well. So it's one of those three things. And it was, I think the messaging at that point was drama's not going to make enough money. Do one of these things. Looks better,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Um, and so luckily I didn't go with medicine because I'm not the best with like
Bless.
intense crisis, medical crises. Um, but yeah, so went with law, and then I like the performance development. So I was like, I want to advocate for people. I want to represent. I want to serve.
Mm,
And then I think when I realized actually, what happens if I did a mini pupillage, it's called. So people that don't know what that is, it's like a little work experience in a barrister chambers. And I said that to one of them, and they said, "Well, we represent insurance companies who are trying to basically keep money in their pockets and not pay it out to
mm.
claimants. How does that align with your values?" And I was like, "Wow, it really doesn't." So that was interesting. Then I was like, "Oh, actually, then I'm going to have to do a bit of that stuff as well." Didn't completely put me off at that time. Um, Went to uni, did the uni thing, did the bar course, managed to get a pupillage, and had a mixed practice. So I did lots of different types of work, but a lot of what I did was quite people orientated, which I liked. I did a lot of like fraudulent personal injury work and property work and things like that. Um, and what I really loved about the job is I travel around the country a lot, but being with people like in conferences and understanding their stories, interviewing them and
Mm.
things like that. Hated the paper-based side of it. Hate's probably too strong a word. I heavily disliked if I
Mhm.
compared it to the court stuff. But it was full on. It was intense. It was like all around the country every day on a train somewhere. And I had no self leadership skills. Like I was on ground zero with self leadership. So my self leadership was in a bottle of wine, uh, chatting to close friends,
Mm.
um, or reading the occasional self help book.
Yeah.
That was my resources in my toolbox at that time. which is sad to think back to that. And I had lots of other crutches as well. So I smoked and um, yeah, just didn't keep myself well, healthy, look after myself at all. And the cracks started to show pretty quickly. And I did what a lot of guys do and just carried on
Yeah.
until I was on my knees, like full on panic disorder, regular panic attacks throughout the day, like 10, 20, 20 like 15 panic attacks, whilst trying to go into court.
Oh,
Oh,
Max.
oh, and not showing any of it, right? I could do my job,
Yeah.
but coming out of work, I was shattered, exhausted because I was carrying all that energy. But the masking was so heavy, conditioning was so heavy that I just kept on
Mm,
uh, until I had to get support.
mm.
Yeah,
And was it then the getting the support that made you realize actually it was the serving and the helping people that was, like
yeah.
what was then so how did you then go from there to becoming a coach? And you
So I
do more
looked,
than just coaching, right? Because you do lots of
yeah,
training, like you have a whole
I got portfolio
portfolio of
practice. Yeah,
service.
I remember it vividly. I looked out my window in my chambers and I was like, this does not fulfill me. This is not what I want to do. There's something else out there. And I remember thinking, I'm going to be having these conversations at some point. And then quickly, the inner critic was like, you would never speak of this. You will never speak of this.
Wow.
Um, but I knew there was something within me that was
Mm,
deeper than that. And so I left and people told me I was mad, like actually
mm,
mad. Like the grass is much greener, crazy, what you're doing, you spent all this money, all this time. Had so many of those conversations, which were awful to have. Um, and then I was like, what do I do? So I got a book called What Color is Your Parachute? I don't know if you've heard of it.
Oh, I have. I've got a client that keeps saying that she's going to go and read it again.
It's a good one.
Yeah.
In that there's a little exercise in it that gets you thinking about who you really do like to work with, what you really do want to do. And it made me realize that actually there's parts of that role that I loved, but it's not all of it. And working with people was a huge one. So then I got into higher education, did lecturing, lecturing law for a while, which I really liked. Like the working with people, mentoring them, coaching them. So I did a lot of mentoring and
Mm,
coaching in that space. But the thing that was missing is that what I was teaching them is law. And
mm,
yeah, it was academically challenging. I love being academically challenged. And I love that process of like assimilation, like bringing together stuff. But I was like, this isn't it. This isn't the full thing.
mm,
And then I had some like experience delivering sessions on more of the softer skill stuff. And I was like, oh, I really like that. Really like that stuff. But it's like a big taboo. Like, can't say that you like it. And that was just like training work at that time.
mm.
So I did a lot of my mindset work and then moved into the coaching and training space from there. So now I've got portfolio practice. So I do a lot of one-to-one coaching, but I also do group coaching. I do a lot of group work in organizations and with teams and training. So real mix of
Yeah.
stuff, but its core is all that self-leadership stuff.
Amazing. So you said before, as we're coming to the end,
Mm,
um, you were talking about the festival and that it wasn't your space. And you started to contemplate, okay, well, what is the space for me that I would want? And that space wasn't there.
mm.
So what is the space for you that you would want? And one would assume you have now created that space for others. I mean, I don't actually know. The answer might be no.
Yeah.
And we're not going to edit the podcast if it is.
No,
But
Louise, I
but
haven't. Yeah. No. Yeah, go on.
but what for you, what does that look like? And then if you and then how do you bring that to other people? Because I think so often we are here to our medicine is the stuff that we didn't get, essentially. The medicine that we
Yeah.
give to others is some of the stuff we didn't get. And Nat said to me at lunchtime today that the old chief exec at one of the building societies that he consults at, he said he's become a coach and he's a coach for leaders who haven't got anyone else to talk about, anyone else to talk to their issues about because they're in a leadership position. And I
Wow.
was like, that was obviously the bit he was missing when he was
Yeah.
the CEO. Anyway, so over to
Yeah.
you. What is that
I
space?
think so the space itself, I think, is a space that's firstly inclusive, where I can see myself in it.
Hmm.
So there is a variety of people, maybe in the branding of it, the messaging of it. It's not that sort of just alpha male, black and white type messaging. Um, Approachable, friendly, that side. Um, but where we can really take off our masks and just be who we are.
Mm.
So a space where it's facilitated in that way, where we can really take off our masks, just be who we are. And I've been to one or two spaces that are like that. But then they weren't that regular. That was the challenge for me, like once every couple of months. Um, so I have created two spaces to offer this. So one of them is my men's group coaching program, which is the Sovereign Self program. So it's all about aligning those three levels of self leadership to get to that sovereign self state and live in that more, where we feel, in flow, on top of things, and energized. So that's the group coaching program. And then I've got a sort of men's sharing cycle, which is starting actually the end of this month, which is the vulnerability club. And that's all about owning our vulnerability, right? Vulnerability's got such a connotation, and certainly wouldn't be associated with a men's group. So I wanted to really shine a light on that, and own and take back that term. Like, there are this is a space where we are going to be vulnerable, but in a way that's really empowering and
Yeah,
connects you with other people who are willing to do that. So we're just, calling a spade a spade. This is what we're going to do, and this is okay. Um,
amazing.
yeah, and so yeah, looking forward to starting that. And I've got a good sign up list for those that people are interested in doing that work.
Great.
Yeah,
Yeah, because actually, like there is something, it's like sometimes people feel like that kind of thing is like they've been weak or something. Like you're actually very brave to be vulnerable.
yeah.
Um, and I want to share just a couple of interesting things that have happened on group things for me before that is that like the almost the power of vulnerability.
Mm,
I had a memory a few years ago that when I was little, and I don't exactly remember how little, but I know that I'd moved house, so I was older than 7 and but still at primary school. I went through this phase of get ready, picking up chewed chewing gum from the floor and saving it and then chewing it,
uh,
right? It was obviously like a self-soothing thing.
yeah.
And I share this in one of my coaching spaces. One of the
Mm.
ladies immediately in the chat, I used to do that. Someone else then
Wow.
someone else then pipes up, my dad used to do that.
Wow. There you go. Yeah.
Right. And then another call where someone shared very vulnerably how when she was little, her dad was involved in a scandal and it was in the newspapers and this was in the context of visibility and feeling safe to be visible and
Mm,
how her dad had been in the newspapers because he'd been blamed. I think he was maybe a doctor, he'd been blamed for something. And
mm,
basically, for her, it meant visibility was very, very dangerous. And literally, every single person on the call had a family member who had been like accused of something. Sometimes they had like full on done it. They'd been to
mm.
prison. They'd like done various different bits, and it was like one of this most healing, normalizing thing
Yeah.
of people just being in their vulnerability, but coming from this background of in that second example, you don't talk about what goes on inside this family doesn't get talked about
Yeah.
the healing in that kind of space, even like for me with the chewing gum, and everyone else is
Yeah.
like, "Oh yeah, I used to do that." I was like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah. 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 That's so huge, isn't it? Just to be seen in others. So not even the
Yeah,
modeling of vulnerability, like speaking up about stuff, but it's also to be seen in others. To it's a form of validation, but I think in a really healthy way, right? We're validating our humanity and the fact that
yeah, and then
we aren't this perfect model that we're presented doesn't actually exist.
yeah, and then the ability to feel safe to be seen
Yeah.
in whatever's going on. So, if people want to come and find you? Because you also work with people one-on-one. I'm
Mhm.
kind of assuming at this point, and I might be wrong, that there's not a lot of corporates listening to my podcast. But should there be a corporate listening to my podcast, if you would like to Max to come and do some leadership work with you, please reach out.
Yeah.
But let's assume that mostly people are going to be individuals. And if there are people that would have resonated with what you've shared and would like to come and work with you, how do they find you? Or if people would just like to stalk you on social media, how do they find you? Tell us all the things.
Yeah. So the best way is LinkedIn DM if you want to do a bit of stalking.
Yeah,
Just come and you can have a little browse around and drop me a DM. I won't bite, I promise. Um, and we can have just a chat, like just a, coffee chat. No
yeah,
pressure. If you want to find out more about me in a bit more detail about the work that I do, you've got my website, which is maxwilsoncoaching.com, and there's lots of information on there as
great.
well. Um, yeah, love to connect with anyone who's interested in anything that I've said.
Brilliant. And then do you know what the exact date of the Vulnerability Club starting is?
It's the last, I should do. It's the last week of November. It's on the Tuesday, so it's 25th, and it'll be 7:30 p.m. till 9. So
Right,
yeah,
so
if you
this
want
is
to
going to
join
come
that,
out. This is going to come out just after then.
okay. So
So
we can
can
join the
people
next
still
one.
join? So they can people still join?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's an ongoing thing. So the group coaching program is a container,
Yeah,
but the men's sharing circle is open to everybody on a rotational basis at the moment.
amazing.
Yeah.
And how often will you have those
So
calls?
that
What's
will
the plan?
be the next one will be on the 16th of December. So yeah, when you're listening to this, the next one will be the 16th of December at 7:30 till 9.
Amazing. And because your men's group is a 6-month program that's already kicked off.
Yep, and that's the current rotation that finishes in March. So I'll be starting that up again in the springtime. So if you are interested in that, get in contact with me. There's some more information on my website and
Amazing.
talk about that.
So this really is the perfect time to start stalking you and testing the waters of like, oh, I like this guy. Might I want to join that next group? So, this is where you sort of start to listen to podcasts and you go and send messages and all the things. I don't need to
Yes.
tell people how we approach someone, but like this is actually quite a good lead-in time for
Yeah. And so I do two podcasts if anyone's interested in listening as well, which is
yeah,
the Masculinity Unmasked podcast, which you mentioned at the beginning that you came on, which was great. And if anybody's part of the LGBT plus community, I also do the Rainbow Coaching Collective podcast, which is myself and two other coaches. And that's also really great talking about those sorts of topics.
amazing. Amazing. And then the other thing that I didn't say, of course, is if you're thinking about the one-on-one group that doesn't start in March, of course, the easy thing to do is to just drop into some of the vulnerability club meetings
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
as a way
Get
to
a
test the
feel,
waters.
get a flavor. Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So thank you so much for coming on, Max, and sharing a bit about your story and self-leadership and what that looks like and the different layers. Is there anything that I didn't ask you about that you would have liked to talk about today?
No, I think that was really, really great. And yeah, really, really fun experience. Yeah, nice to share. Thanks for that.
Okay, amazing. So do reach out to myself or Max if you have any feedback, questions, comments. We would love to hear from you. And otherwise, I will see you in a couple of weeks. Probably. I think there's probably one more episode to do before Christmas at this point when this one comes out. Undecided yet, but I will say Nat has bought me a jumper that has got like a cartoon picture of me and a cartoon picture of Sydney the dog on. And it says something, I don't know, something like a girl and her best friend. And it's like one of those tops that you wouldn't want to go within about 50 miles of a naked flame. But I feel like there should be like a Christmas podcast episode with that on.
Yeah, you need a moment for that.
Yeah, yeah. Maybe I'll bring Sydney and we'll put a little hat on her and I'll just sit there with her.
Oh, I wish I could come to that episode.
Oh, maybe that's what I should do. Just invite everyone back to
Invite
sing
everyone back.
carols.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much for coming on, Max. All of Max's links will be in the show notes below. So if you didn't catch what he shared there, find them below. And I will see you all soon. Take care. Thanks again,
Amazing. Take
Max.
care. Thanks.